Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. My name is Jeff Rude, the host and ringleader of this operation. Joining me today, I don't have jokes prepared, so we'll just name them in order of shortest first name first. Chris, Zombie by Redacted.
Hey, Jeff. Show me your Abdullah Demglingada. I want to see your juicy gray matter.
I'm more interested in my ventral vagal system than I am my gray matter. I want the big nerve.
Yeah, baby, shake it, shake it. I want to see your parietal lobes.
This is like a Psychonauts porn parody. What are we done? Also joining us for this porn parody episode, Braden, Arbitrary Water Redacted.
Hi, hello. I am here to do the intercourse.
Very good. That's how the pros do it.
Tickle my brainstem, Braden.
Listen, I have played Bulletstorm, but I did not play it with Duke Nukem, so I'm afraid I'm a little out of practice with dirty talk.
Why don't you dictate my diction?
On this episode, we'll be continuing to discuss Xenosaga Episode 1, Devils and Macht. It was originally developed by Monolith Soft and published by Namco for PlayStation 2, February 28, 2002, and subsequently released for Nintendo DS. If you'd like to be a part of the pre-show discussion on these games... Sorry, I feel like we've done that intro a lot. Hey, if you'd like to talk about these games with us, though, as well as be a part of community events that happen around this and Deep Listens the main show, you can swing by patreon.com/deeplistens. That's patreon.com/deeplistens. Kicking in any amount of money onto that Patreon at all get you access to an ultra-secret Discord full of cool people, and also me. You can also send questions to us via electronic mail. These inquiries can be shot to inquiries@deep.lol. You can also just yell at us on Discord and say, hey, what's the meaning of this? That would be fine, too. Speaking of, I said I was going to do something last time, which was finish reading the Off the Deep End email we got.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. From Joe.
Yes. Flashback, let's see it. Okay, so I forget exactly where we stopped, but the second half of this basically scans as cut back to Shion and Cosmos. She takes Cosmos to the mall. She's never been shopping before. I think this is the station. At the food court, they meet Chaos, an anime dandy.
Fukai Foundation.
Somewhere they meet Junior, who's a small, horny man. Momo and Reinhardt come into this scene. At this point, everyone goes to a hot spring before the Gnosis attack again, which is more or less where we're... Well, I'll get into it. Shion realizes she left her phone at the mall, so everyone travels into the belly of a giant Gnosis to retrieve it. There's a flashback where we see Albedo become a vampire. We find out that Junior is a clone.
Close enough.
And used to have many small brothers. Possible spoiler for episode 2. We find out that he specifically hates Albedo because of all the clones, he grew the tallest. Albedo turns Cosmos evil, but Shion turns her back with the power of love. They're definitely about to kiss before Chaos interrupts to explain some plot. They travel back. They travel to Albedo's Death Star and fight him. He says, come on, like Terry Bogard. Albedo's head falls off, and he puts it back on as a prank.
Yep.
Yeah, that fucks me up.
Yes, it does. Yep. His Death Star explodes, and he's still alive, so is the Robo-Racist, but now he's also a hooded figure. Everyone says, now it is time. The end.
Yeah.
That's,
like I said,
Joe, you really fucking nailed it.
This game is the most coherent part, might be the most brainfucky part of this game. Like, it's an actual ending. It's coherently told. Characters have arcs. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did someone who's competent at storytelling and writing just You wrote the end, and then you passed it off to some intern that read a textbook about metaphysics and Judeo-Christian belief systems.
Or, alternately, was this always, like, reasonably coherent, but then they had to turn it into, like, what on the back could be sold as an 80-hour game? Yeah. And they just had to, like, okay, well, we're just gonna...
I guess you're right. The beginning of this game, while weird, like, okay, fine. Apocalypse happens, weird aliens are exterminating the human race, but this is after we've achieved warp technology. I guess, yeah, you're right. The weirdest part of this game is, like, the middle. Like, the last episode that we did, right?
Yep. Although, we have the Encephalon in this episode.
Sure, so... we do have the Encephalon, but I would say, in terms of beat by beat, the middle of this game is definitely less coherent than the last 2/3, right? Or the last third.
We are going to delve into that, but before we do, Braden, the floor is open if you want to issue a lecture, but you also don't have to, because we got ground to cover.
So I have not prepared a lecture because I'm trying to think of the things that I could, make sense within the context of Xenosaga, and it's like, yeah, I could look up stuff on Gnosticism, but, as like a, fair weather, someone who's still a fair weather Christian or whatever, it's just like, I don't have the stamina to want to do that right now. So instead, I want to talk about a different aspect that this game reminded me of. And that is the mom and pop used game store.
Oh, right.
Because I think, playing weird PS2 games and like weird old games in particular, a lot of that was fueled and assisted by my local extremely shady, definitely not a front for crimes, mom and pop media store.
Used games and Lucy's in a little box by the cash register.
Oh, dude. This place is no longer in business. Unfortunately, it has been replaced with a Panera. But this place is called CD World.
All right.
And it was a place where you could buy used video games, DVDs, LPs, mint condition Star Wars action figures, weird like fairy sculptures.
All right.
They had a Devil May Cry 3 video slot machine for sale that no one ever bought.
It was probably horribly overpriced.
Yeah. And most importantly, for my youthful self, they did not card you when you bought M-rated games. So, as you can imagine, a place like this helped facilitate a lot of my game collection. And I think that's one of those things that, Xenosaga and playing the eBay game has reminded me of, is just like, I miss a place where I could go to a store in the corner of a strip mall called like Fun Game Place and just find a bunch of weird shit, and then also like nothing but 18 sports games when you get to like the original Xbox. And I've come to the realization that I deeply miss that in a very perverse way. And I kind of want to ask you two about your experiences with stores like these, because this is how I got Resident Evil 4 when I was 14.
You were 14 when Resident Evil... Oh, man.
Let's see. When did Resident Evil 4 come out? 2006. So yes, I would have been 15.
Really?
Yes.
I don't want to go over how old we are.
Yep.
All I know is Jeff is older than me.
I am a little bit older than you.
Shit, Jeff, I think you are the actual oldest person associated with deep listens to the podcast network.
I don't know if I'm trying to remember if I'm older than Gino. I'm not sure.
I'm older than Gino, so you're older than Gino.
Jesus Christ. So that means I've seen more of these stores than either of you have, and I can tell you how they were when you were wee lads. So let me tell you, people of a certain age will recall, if you happen to live on the island of Oahu around 2000 to, I don't remember when they moved, but I moved out of there in 06 and it was still there. If you cruise down the H1 and you go up through Aiea, there's a Ford dealership, Cutter Ford. Behind Cutter Ford, there's a strip mall. In that little strip mall was this fucking amazing shop called Jellies. And they would advertise on the radio. They had radio spots, which must have been dirt cheap in those days. This has been like 2003, 2004. Their radio spots were literally, hey, y'all like music? Come in here, buy used CDs from us, copy them to your computer, sell them back to us. We will sell them again. We do not care. We're called Jellies. We literally hide behind Cutter Ford in Aiea. It was the best store, and it had a profound fucking impact on my life because this was at a point where no one wanted vinyl records, no one wanted NES games, no one wanted SNES stuff. Like, there was this dearth of interest in retro shit for whatever reason, so, like, I have a reasonably large vinyl records collection to this day, and about 60% of it came from Jellies, and I got most of it for like $4 a piece. Which, I don't know if you've ever gone and just tried to buy like Remain in Light on vinyl or something these days, but it's not $4 anymore, it's more like $40. I got a copy of Link to the Past used there for like $7, just loose.
What?
Yeah, because it was 2003, no one gave a shit. And this was in, like, you know, really expensive Oahu prices, you know? Like, my first gallon of gas I ever paid for when I was a teen was on base in Oahu in 2005, and it was $2.30, which was expensive relative to mainland gas. Nowadays, I think I'd actually literally go and kill either of you for $2.30 for gas. So, yeah, so I didn't get a lot of games there, but they had games. They mostly got a lot of music. And they sold guitars, they sold incense, they had an enormous book section, and they had a little shelf full of just, like, books on drugs, pharmaceutical, and recreational. They had this book called The Heroin User's Handbook that my friend just bought to keep under his bed just to freak his parents out. It's a fucking amazing store. They moved at some point to another part of Oahu, and I think they changed their name to Ideas with an apostrophe, like Ideas Store. And it looks like they kept a lot of their inventory when they did that, when I looked at the pictures online. But that was my childhood thing. At this point in my life, one of the reasons I continue to work at the place I work is because it is very close to one of two Pink Gorilla locations in Seattle. If there is a retro game shop that people kind of know because they're good about branding, it might be that one in the area. They have a really good import selection on top of everything else that they do. The people who own it have been really great to work with. Kelsey's part of the Video Game History Foundation. I've had them on the HD 101 podcast at some point 1,000 years ago. They're really great. In Tacoma, there is a branch of Super Smash Games, which is, there's one here and then there's one down in Lacey. They have a smaller import section, but they have them. So I'm pretty spoiled for riches right around where I live, I guess. I can literally just get in my car, drive about 5 minutes, and have, like, Who cards just ready to go for me. I still would, I think, trade all of it to go back to Jellies, like, one more time as a teenager. If only because I could probably buy that store out for, like, $1,000 and retire now with what I bought. Because, holy shit, everything in there has inflated, like, dozens, if not hundreds of times over, like, laser discs and shit. Like, just, I probably could have got my Dune laser disc there at some point. That's, like, the one film I want to own. Every version ever made is probably Dune. So, want like the DVD and the Blu-ray and the beta and the VHS and the Laserdisc and a reel. Like, It's a perfect film. And I bet they had it, and I just didn't know. So that's my bit.
Yeah. Here's the other side to that. Here's the dark side of that, is that I sold a lot of childhood games back to them. And there's definitely a couple that I regret doing so.
Side note, what's the worst trade or sale you ever did of a retro thing that you're like, oh my god, why?
Why the fuck did I get rid of my copy of
Little
Super Mario:
Samson.
The Thousand-Year Door? Only to claw back
I'm
and
actually,
buy a new
I'm
one
probably
years
in the
later.
worst possible situation. My parents basically handed over my entire video game collection to Goodwill. Xbox, GameCube, PS2, fucking everything has been given to Goodwill. I didn't get a warning. I didn't get anything. Basically lost almost. I basically have lost everything. That's not the Xbox One moving forward.
And you talk to your mom.
I love them. I think I'm the most live in the now person in terms of this entire podcast network, where I don't give a shit. I'll just fucking emulate it, even if I emulate it poorly.
Join us in darkness. CP.
I went into the darkness of we just had this talk, Jeff, where it's like, yo, we need to get you hardware. It's like, nah, I'm cool. It's not authentic. Bleh. It's not the real experience. Bleh.
I mean,
you know what's cool? Having this copy of Suikoden 5 that I have to connect 18 things into each other
Braden
to play.
has basically dissuaded me on the idea of investing heavily, because every single time he tries to play a game, it's like, I spent all this money on this not to put you on blast, dude. So just get that.
That new retro tank
it
came
sounded
out.
it sounded like a goddamn nightmare.
That new retro tank came out, and it's bad because I have now reached the point in my life where I have a scan converter already, but it's like, what if I got the new fancy scan converter for $300 American dollars?
And you talk about mom and pop shops. I hate to say it, I was a West Coast California mall kid. I was a mall rat.
Oh, I spent a fuck ton of time at malls, let me tell you, as well.
It was EB Games, it was GameStop, and it was Suncoast Motion Picture Company.
Okay. That's unfortunate, because I can definitely think of a couple extremely shady mom and pop used game stores. There was one in the mall where I went to college that I went to a few times called Mario's. And it's definitely one of the things where it's like, this was the mall that was half the stores were shut down, basically. Yeah. This was like the suburban decay mall, where it's like the only reason any of these stores are open is because the movie theater is here. And that place was real interesting.
I remember when
they had Atari Jaguar games there.
Hell yeah.
I remember in one of the malls I was at, it started with one Games Workshop, and then it was 2 Games Workshops, and then it was 3 Games Workshops. And I remember being like, this is the only thing in this mall that's doing good business anymore, because there's literally only one place to play Warhammer tournament style in this entire county, and it's here. And sure as shit, that mall went down, and they had to they only recently demolished it. It was over in Cupertino. I forget what it was called. I don't know, man. I just I got deep into eBay. I got deep into buying games from resellers on eBay. Okay. I would say about 40 to 50% of my Xbox 360 collection was from eBay at one point. Just scouring things. I remember one of my proudest moments was being able to buy a copy of Rockstar's Table Tennis for $6, and then negotiating to have free shipping because they didn't need to give me the box. They could just send me the disc.
Gotta buy on that dip. 360 stuff. Still reasonably cheap. Unlike PS3, which, I guess we should.
It's almost as if, of all the companies in this goddamn console network, who would have guessed that Microsoft Microsoft would be the one that actually assists in game preservation the most.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. I still have a PlayStation 3 setup.
I mean, I went through the mall and like I even did a really fucked up thing, which was, hey, I'm gonna take my little sister. Let's go through Spencer's Gift and laugh at the dildos. Which my sister still talks to me about how much fun that used to be. But then also it's like, I fucked that up. That was a bad.
We all have things we regret.
Yeah, it's just now mines are on the internet.
Like Xenosaga. Heyo.
Oh,
Actually, I don't regret playing this game.
No.
I regret the amount of time that it took. I wish
this
Jeff,
game...
You're the one who said when we reached basically like the 33% mark of this game, why don't we get to the end? It's like, Jeff, that sounds like a near daft amount of Xenosaga in one sitting. And then sure enough, God, it turns out that this was a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. My game choice privileges are being set aside for a little bit. Because this was poor. So we have a lot of game to dig through, and we should probably start doing that. We left off with swimsuits.
Yes.
Right, the Kukai Foundation, and I forget, the game does basically tell us about no less than like 2 conspiracies, that there's stuff that is bad. Bad news is happening. I seem to recall like this
ominously.
I seem to recall when I reached this part of the game, the characters just whipping out swimsuits and just chilling out on a beach. Even when I first played it, being like, this is a discordant event. This does not make sense. We literally were just in the belly of a beast. And also, haven't we just had multiple characters say that, like, these weird alien monsters can attack at, like, the drop of a hat? Like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean,
it's a fun beach time party.
It's a magic. It's the space station's magic. It keeps the ghosts out.
And I forget, how much do we know about the Kukai Foundation and kind of like who they are or where they... I know that they are not U-TIC, pro-U-TIC. Okay. They're separate.
Yeah.
Or are they
I made a point of intentionally not reading the codex anymore past that first episode of the podcast. So I'm doing all of this off the dome. And from what I remember, the Kukai Foundation was created in the aftermath of the Miltian conflict as kind of like a rebuilding organization turned business turned like militia.
Yeah, a PMC, a conglomerate that happens to have some PMC-like elements within it, and drew a lot of, like, humans that were, for lack of a better word, mutated as a result of what happened to Miltia. So if you were milling around on the Kukai Foundation space station, people will be like, yeah, I'm a fucking mutant, man. These are the only people that like me. I don't know why the rest of humans are so scared. I'm just a mutant, no big.
I will say there are a couple of things that I thought were nice touches here. So I think that there was an offhand comment that Vector Industries, which we will talk about later, is a huge investor of the Kukai Foundation. And you can actually pick up on that if you actually go to like where the spaceships are docking, but not the docking that you want. You can notice that all of the ships are of the Vector models, because the Vector spaceships have a very iconic look in comparison to all of the other spaceships. But all of the spaceships in the Kukai Foundation have that design, that Vector design, which just underscores that, this is some sort of pro-capitalist corporate interest, lower our taxes, please, otherwise industry will die and we'll unemploy everyone kind of place. But also, this is just a place for us to look at Shion in a bikini.
Yeah.
So, 2 things I noted. One, there's a weird flashback where Kevin is working with, like, Proto Cosmos and says he feels a pulse as he's, like, examining her. The other thing that... 3 things. Second one, Shion is, like, asking about the nature of the Gainem relationship. If they're like father and son, there's like rumors around cloning. Momo says something to the effect of that it's like more than being a sibling or more than like a father-son relationship, which is nice and vague.
So can we talk about how Junior is the leader of the Kukai Foundation, and he's a goddamn kid, and he's
a boy. Okay,
man. He's a 20-year-old.
He's
I realize like his codex is like 26, 27, but he behaves like a baby.
Yeah,
he's a babby.
He sometimes says "damn" to let you know that he's not a kid.
Yeah, this game earned its T rating. The other thing I noted for purely reasons is at some point, like, Shion's like, she doesn't like thunder, and Junior's like, I'm gonna make it storm. I'm a child. And, like, turns the weather on in the beach, and Shion's like, oh shit. And, I swear to God, they spent an unusual amount of time modeling camel toe on Shion in a way that made me go like, y'all did that. Okay. Alright. That's a choice. Didn't have to do that. Moving on. There's a Skype call that happens, which I'm just going to refer to as Skype from now on. Guinan
future Skype.
Yes, future Skype. Guinan Sr. is talking to Representative Helmer from Miltia. Helmer refers to Guinan Sr. as Negretto. Guinan says he doesn't really like that name. Guinan Sr. is going to visit Helmer with the 12 emulator, which disappeared a planet, and also lets him know that they have 100 series Realian, referring to Momo. He's concerned about what U-TIC is doing. Helmer is going to, like, sniff around the UMN, the, like, space internet, to, like, see who's moving around, to see if U-TIC is, like, in the area or will be in the area, because the odds are they're probably just looking for the Zohar, which they just happen to have. And then they say Udu. I think they say Udu, like, 2 or 3 times.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And the most I got out of this conversation is like, oh, the guy voicing Representative Helmer, he's the guy who's the voice of Jet Black in the dub of Cowboy Bebop.
Huh.
That's as much as I got.
Udu is the Lolly Lulelo of this game.
Oh, that's
so
right.
far.
Yes.
I don't know.
They explain it at one point, but
we'll get to it. They do. It's a dumb name for what it is, I guess. I don't know. They could have called it
Dilly Dally Shilly Shally, Jeff.
Yes.
Yes.
Why did all these games land on some dumb phrase? Ziggy and his big childbearing hips show up at the beach, and Junior is like, hey, do you want to play, robot man? Let's see, I wrote constantly encouraged to not push yourself. So I'm guessing everyone's just like, hey man, like, this is literally the game just being like, hey, you might want to fuck around, I guess.
Yeah.
And the way you fuck around is it looks into it, like, this turns into like a weird Shin Megami Tensei overworld map of sorts, if you're familiar, which is usually like small icon moving on some sort of like vector-based city that has like a couple points of interest on it. But there's only really like 3 places to go, so it seems a little pointless.
There's the city block, there's the Durandal, and there's the eggs place. All
of which are like kind of cool. I think the city block is actually kind of great, and poking around in it this first time, I was like, man, it seems kind of, I hope they do more with this environment.
Yeah. I don't know. This entire environment feels like, hey, you know how Square Enix, like, this is what I think the developer was thinking. You know how Square Enix always has, like, mini games in their JRPGs? Let's just put all of them in one location.
Yeah, it's like the
Fortune Street. It's basically Fortune Street and Dragon Quest.
And a shopping trip.
A shopping trip, and like all of the like ancillary side questy kind of shit you would have expected to already have cropped up in this game. Most of it's here.
I actually made the mistake of not shopping here, progressing the story, and then later realizing, shit. So I actually had to load up my save to come back to this location. It's pretty important to note that outside of the Kukai Foundation, how you actually buy resources, how you actually buy stuff, which is to say, your number of opportunities of getting equipment, pretty scant. Sometimes there will be terminals in which you can buy things. It's not... I don't feel like this entire location properly communicates that, hey, gear check. Yeah, hey, buddy. Fiddle around with your inventory for like an hour and figure out what you want with each of these characters.
Yeah, to win.
And then also, I know that Braden and I fucked about with the stock system and got a shit ton of money, but there is a way for you to reach this location and not have enough money to buy everything that you want, or even like getting your characters back to treading at least water with some of the grind sessions that we got coming up.
Yeah, that was me.
There's definitely a gear check aspect of this. Also, yeah, this is where I upgraded all my eggs.
All of them. For me as well.
I have still not... I barely engaged with the egg system in this game. And I did fine.
Wow.
Yeah, well, but I went the other sick way, which was I got very, very, very into the segment file stuff. So it was at this point already that I turned in parts to the robot man in the egg shop and got the Throny Blade spell. Like, that's like maybe the 10th thing I wrote for this episode, which is this AoE magic ability that eats not a ton of ether points, particularly if you've got the it's like the angel part or whatever, like angel wing piece of gear on it, like halves MP costs. So with that, I was able to start like grokking trash mobs really hard, because it was just like roll up, spend this, and then for whatever reason this game gives you like a lot of the equivalent of like mid ether or whatever. So a lot of my fighting just looked like show up, use Throny Blade, get stuff. It was kind of great.
I will admit the eggs, or as they are properly called, the AGWSs, in order for them to be useful for you, you do have to engage in a lot of fiddly bullshit. Like, not only do you need to obtain them, you have to keep them maintained. You got to keep their engines, their frames,
you got to upgrade their reactor and their frame, and you have to get their weapons.
You got to get the weapons, which getting their weapons is not exactly the easiest thing.
You have to have two of the same weapons so you can use.
You also can't forget to take advantage of enemy damage types. So if you use a water on a fire type, like it's Pokemon rolls, it'll do jack shit. And they're more of a boss killer than a random enemy killer. I think that's the important thing that I learned.
Yeah.
But I picked Shion's egg, and then I did Junior's. I just did two, and I remained up to date with two of them, definitely Shion's. And I relied on the eggs to kill bosses, in some case just one-shot them. I don't know, Braden, if you had the same thing, but the eggs are really good at just...
W-Act, if you hit their weakness, you can do a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, if you properly match the elemental weaknesses with the appropriate egg, the boss will go down within 1 to 2 turns. And that was... Like, I'm glad that the system is there. I just wish it was less involved and didn't require the massive time commitment that they actually end up doing. Like, it basically reminds me of they have the potential of being Zanmato, Jeff, in Final Fantasy X.
Right.
But instead of just press the button to have Zanmato kill the boss, like, you actually need to invest in an economy, which I admit is... And like, Braden and I, the only reason why we were far richer than you, Jeff, is because we fiddled through all of the emails. Which there's something to be said about that not being the best way to actually opt players into this whole stock economy system.
Yep. And also that stuff is abandoned after this. Like, you don't get any more emails, basically.
No, like the entire email system, you have to do it from the start of the game to the first entry in the Kukai Foundation, and basically, well, I mean, we'll kind of get into it. Like,
there's a trickle that come through, but they're less interesting.
But they're just
forward.
like, hey, Cosmos can use this weapon now.
Right. Yeah. So this is the part where I say up to the point where I got through this game, I actually didn't use the eggs on a single boss fight. Which is me just deadass saying I didn't wind up finishing this as advertised for a variety of reasons. most of which have to do with the fact that my volunteer work that I do got kind of fucky.
Jeff, did you not play Xenogears?
No, actually I haven't.
Oh, because the eggs are basically the gears from Xenogears.
Oh, I mean, I'm familiar, and I get it, but... And it's like, I don't know, at a certain point, the boss fights seemed like, there's probably a more skillful way to do this, but I feel like I'm being skillful enough with the tools I already have.
Yeah.
And I could,
you don't need to use them.
Yeah. No. It became kind of clear that I didn't.
Is that you can completely ignore this system if you don't want to invest in it. You're totally fine. And yeah, you can just continue on with the story, even if you don't like mechs. Maybe you don't like mechs, which I hear you. I mean, it's a lifestyle choice.
I don't mind mechs, but I like really long spell animations, so I was really keen on playing with the main characters as much as I could. So, yeah, you wander around, shop, you can talk to the weird comedy pratfall nutty professor man in the eggs maintenance shop who will take things out of the red segment doors that you've been finding throughout the game and turn them into, better spells. Eventually, someone hits you up on your pager to say, come back to the ship, we need to work on Cosmos. At this point, there is a cut back to the asteroid Ploroma.
Right.
Yep.
Where we get complaints about the power level output. Someone notes it's impossible to open the door to Lost Jerusalem, and that the emulators that they already have can barely find the door. This is Margulis basically stands up and says that Joachim Mizrahi's work was good, like he did a good job, you're all being a dick. Plan 401 is the new plan going forward, which is it's a really weird number to specifically choose if you're an American. Momo, it's divulged, basically has a repository. It's so Joachim Mizrahi had a GitHub repo, and he cloned it into Momo.
Right.
Plus a bunch of his passwords that are in an Excel sheet. Which should open a bunch of doors on the planet Miltia, which theoretically might open a door that has the Zohar behind it. So right now the scheme is manipulate the planetary committee somehow to make use of this information. There
are a lot of unanswered questions, and I guess that you can say that that's partly because this is a 3-part series. The weird communication of, does society discourage and hate clones? Because didn't we just have, Chernikov get screwed over by his fake wife so that she can clone a daughter? And then, wait, what? And then now we're in different parts of the world where clones are bad. Clones are really bad. I guess the Clone Wars made everybody sad about clones. But there are also other weird moments where it's wait, what about that plot beat? What happened there? Remember when we were on the Wogdalin and we saw Betty, the weird mutant hybrid? And then, and I will never forget this, Shien's wait a minute, I was touched by a Gnosis. I could turn into Betty. And then it's never brought up ever again.
Yep.
And we never see Betty ever again. Or any of those weird mutant hybrids.
It's kind of brought up. It's
okay, I know where you're going. So, but there's some weird stuff that goes on here. And then, isn't this when we get arrested by U-TIC?
Yes.
We're not quite there, because at the end of this sequence where we talk about the GitHub repo inside of the girl robot, Margulis is shit, I know what we're gonna do. Closes Skype, gets on Zoom with Dante, who's in a space car with another Realian-looking girl. Margulis says you just need to pay attention because basically everything military security, the Kukai Foundation are probably not going to just turn over information, and you're probably going to need to use the Song of the Nephilim. And Albedo, who I just wrote as Dante for the first 6 times because he just looks like Dante. He's fucking stoked about using this song for some reason.
Yeah.
Margulis' admin assistant calls Albedo a monster born out of life recycling. This admin assistant is named Pellegri. Someone notes the Song of Nephilim draws everything unto madness.
Yeah.
So that's what it does.
That's true.
So everyone, the entire Foundation station, like the entire Kukai Foundation giant dome, flower-shaped dome with the other spaceship inside of it, because there's like nesting Matryoshka dolls of ships.
Not to completely derail this.
No.
Albedo has some of the best quotes in the entire goddamn game. Like,
yeah,
he just says these sentences, and then it's like, what? Like, what was the one that I remember most? I wrote it down. Feed me your hostility, pierce me with your hatred. Yeah. And I was like, a grown person did not write this. He did not write this. And then he calls Momo Mapesh.
Yep.
And it's like, what?
French. Yep.
Why are you speaking French?
Yep.
And I had to look it up, and it means my peach.
Yep.
And he's like, I guess Albedo could suck a peach for hours.
Oh, fuck.
He's a wonderful shit heel edgelord dick.
Shit heel anime villain man who is like his voice actor was clearly
his voice
just
actor.
like,
let's give him credit. He sells this role.
Yep.
He is committed. He's hamming it up. He's chewing through the scenery like he's fucking Steve Tukey in a 2-bit romance movie. Like, just chewing through the scenery.
Junior is talking to Momo in the hallway inside of the giant space boat. He gives her a 9mm round that says Sayonara Baby on it, which he then makes glow, or he starts glowing, and he puts it onto a chain for her, because he's a mutant, and he can just do that. At this point, shit pops off. The Federation fleet shows up and starts shooting space torpedoes.
That's right.
Meanwhile, at Parliament, somewhere,
it's literally just, I wrote in my notes, it's literally just the Senate from Star Wars, huh?
Yes, yep. They just do that. They're watching what amounts to doctored footage of
a deep fake
of the Kukai Foundation assaulting the 117th Marine Division from earlier in the game. It's alleged that the Second Miltian Government orchestrated this attack, which was perpetrated by the Kukai Foundation. And per Article 104, they suspend Second Miltia's government autonomy. They dispatched the 442nd Fleet from Gedalia to surround both the planet and the space station. There's like a debate about the use of force and the wisdom of signing over the Zohar control to the neutral third party, aka the Kukai Foundation, 14 years ago by a parliamentary vote. Someone says the phrase corporate monopoly, and it's very it's very Star Wars. It's the fucking Star Wars Senate scene.
But basically, we now know that U-TIC is going to send Albedo to attack the Kukai Foundation with a mission.
Yep.
And that Momo is obviously get Momo.
Yeah.
Or not Momo. Wait, no, yeah, it's Momo,
get Mizrahi's memories from inside Momo.
Yeah. So this is the first version of their plan, which is like create this false pretense to just arrest these people and just get rid of her that way.
Yeah.
So then, the space cops get into the Kukai ship and they just start reading them the riot act, and they're like, you fuckers blew up our spaceships and now you're all going to jail right now. And they see a screen of like space CNN behind them, and it's like, fuck, that's doctored footage. We didn't do that. And this is the point where Mary and Shelley are like, oh, fuck, U-TIC. They're just in the government. Where does the conspiracy end?
Right. This is when we find out that how do we prove our innocence? Cosmos got a black box in her belly.
Right. There's so many fucking... All of this gets to a dungeon that is way too long, but I kind of like how they get there.
I just want to... What is Cosmos's black box recording? What does it have? Like, it's in her.
It has the undoctored
footage.
Yeah.
That proves it was the Gnosis and not the Kukai Foundation.
And they're just like, no, trust us, this is good data. So Captain Lapis Roman, Guinan gets arrested, they confiscate Momo, and like everyone gets pushed into a mess hall. Zicky's like, this is all way too neat. Like, the subcommittee knew where to find Momo. Like, everything seems fucked right now. A space cop hands Guinan a phone, and Helmer from Second Miltia's on the line, and Guinan's like, fuck, everyone's in cahoots here, this is shitty. And it turns out Roman is Helmer's mole, who monitors U-TIC in the Federation military, and it's all related, man. Like, you get into fucking Charlie from It's Always Sunny territory here of, like, who's talking and who's working with whom. So someone's going to go through ship records to make sure things haven't been doctored. The CEO of Vector, Mr. Wilhelm, also calls a guy on... God damn it. Yep, I'm just turning into Charlie.
I had a friend who listened to these podcasts be like, no, I have barely any idea what you guys are talking about. And I feel like this is a good indication why.
Yes. There's a vast conspiracy. U-TIC's at the center of it. They want to basically open a door to space heaven or some shit.
Yep.
And there's a lot of moving parts around it. So Roman comes into the mess, says she's a mole, says they're going to get turned over to U-TIC, and that Helmer's doing what he can to slow this down. The Voglinde black box was modified. Cosmos has probably got good data, so you're going to need to pull it out. And they're like, well, how the hell do you do that? That requires help from the federal government and also Vector headquarters. They have special computers. And they're like, or we could use this VR headset and just go inside of her robot self and then get the information that way. Mm-hmm. So they're like,
in the brain matrix.
Yes. So they're like, cool. She's like, all right, here's what you do. Matrix. Just punch me out. We'll make it look like y'all, ganged up on me. And then go inside of your robot friend. This is the only way, but thou must. So they punch out the space cop, and they escape to, like, a room that Cosmos is in, and they get out a Virtual Boy, and
yep.
The room goes all weird, and then you enter a long, miserable dungeon.
So there's so much to talk about.
There's so much.
Y'all just go ahead.
In Cosmos's brain, right?
Yeah.
And so that limits your party in a little bit.
Which is a real bummer, by the way.
Everyone is split up.
Not having Cosmos is a fucking bummer.
Yeah, because Cosmos is kind of was definitely the linchpin of my party in terms of just like raw damage dealer.
And I know that I harped on this last time and it made me sound like a babby, but the fact that there's no EXP sharing system sucks because there's never felt like there was
kind of EXP sharing.
Yeah, there's something going on.
Ziggy and Momo were leveled up.
Level dungeon where I could just get everyone up to speed, and also this game introduces a ton of characters in weird intervals. Okay.
The weird thing about this game is that you don't get any T points or skill points or E points if you are not in the active party, which those matter a lot more than your level.
Yes.
So let's see. Going into the robot brain matrix.
So can we talk about the Unus Mundus network?
Yes.
This is a fun one. Unus Mundus is a Carl Jungian idea that there is actually a unified reality between subconscious and conscious, and that possibly upon death, we are able to go to that place. Total bullshit. Likely doesn't exist, but it's basically the point at which the psyche and human matter, actual physical matter, interact. Anyways. the part of this, okay, it's a virtual reality world. And it does give a reason for this. It says that, oh, this is the collective unconscious. We're representing everyone who's a part of this network's unconscious. Would it have killed them if you're making this virtual reality escape? To, like, I don't know, have Gnosis be a banned word? So is that, like, these awful ghost alien monsters are in this virtual reality network? Like, there's so much to this. Like,
and also, it's a reflection of the people's pasts. So,
but then it's being sold as like VR hardware. So why would I ever want to go to this weird manifestation of post-apocalyptic humanity? Like, wouldn't I want to use my VR headset to go to an escape?
Because it takes place. Because it is a manifestation of Miltia, the first Miltia, which was Xi'an's homeworld, and then Junior also has some trauma from there that the game never bothers fully explaining, because probably they'll get around to it in the second game. So let's see. Junior, Ziggy, and Momo are in the, like, watching some goose stepping, like, Realians,
blonde boys, basically.
Crimes.
Yeah. He calls them the URTV.
Yep.
Yeah, Ziggy's like, yo, where is this? And Junior's like, this is Miltia, 14 years ago. We also get Xi'an, who is alone at this point.
No, she's with Chaos.
She is with Chaos.
I guess this game just straight up says robots can have souls and subconsciousnesses?
Yep.
Yes.
Sure, why not?
I believe this is a major plot point in the series.
Sure. Cool. Let's just run with that.
Xi'an sees herself on a swing, who runs towards her dad. The little blonde girl with a cross appears and says, this is the last time you ever spent with your dad. Says she's been waiting for Xi'an because they have a lot to talk about.
Yep.
Her name is Encephalon. We cut back to Junior, and then we get to actually play the game for the first time in a while. And we're back to a stealth section, which is really cool, because it's like dodge the spotlights, but you kind of need the experience, so ultimately you just hit each one of the spotlights.
We talked about this last time, but the idea of doing stealth sequence in RPGs, it's just so ass backwards, right?
The two don't fit.
They don't fit. And then also, it's not like I can level up my characters. I hate to... This is pulling from Braden, but, like, at least in something like, I don't know, Matthew Rory's Alpha Protocol, I can put points into stealthing about, or Deus Ex.
Uh-huh.
I'm stuck with the same third-person controls.
Yeah.
Overhead.
Fixed
hold down a shoulder button to walk.
And it controls like shit because it's not meant to be a third-person action or stealth game.
Yeah.
The encounters you get for falling into those spotlights are, like, weirdly hard. Well, I guess that's the point. But they're good items that you can get in this sequence. So, risk reward something.
Cutscene, the blonde boys are gunning people down, a ship falls from the sky. Junior says they're all infected.
Yes, I wrote these juniors are committing war crimes, because they're all a little bunch of blonde juniors. And then stuff falls from the sky.
One of them looks exactly like Junior and calls out for someone named Rubido.
Yep.
There's a flashback within a flashback where you go back to the red hexagon room, where a blonde Junior clone hits brunette Junior with a force wave. Junior gets grumpy with Momo IRL after experiencing these flashbacks.
What is Udo?
Udo is It's a space wave that comes from...
So is Udo a part of the Undis Mundis network? Or is that separate?
Udo is what caused the Miltia. That's all I wrote in my notes.
But there's like some sort of weird relationship from Udo to
I'm going to read from
to
the Xenosaga wiki right now. Udu, pronounced Udu, short for Unus Mundus Drive Operation, or One World Drive Operation, if you don't know Latin, is a wave existence system that is directly connected to the Miltian conflict and the Zohar. It dwells in the higher upper domain and can observe mankind in the lower domain. What are those? With its observation terminals, also called its eyes. Abel and Abel's Ark. These are things we learn about at the end of the game. So it's a wave, and it comes from the internet.
What?
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. And then after this sequence, we go back to Xion for a bit, and she has a traumatic flashback of when Cosmos went berserk and killed Kevin.
Yes.
And then it's realized that Xion killed the original prototype Cosmos. She shot her.
Kevin steps in, and then Cosmos just open hand thrusts through his sternum. Blat. Okay, and then... God. She just fucking rams through his sternum. Just, through the spine, out the front, murders Kevin. And that's when she gets shot. Because Cosmos, or Xion's like, no, that's
not right.
You probably shouldn't be doing
that. And then it kind of becomes like Psychonauts in that once you manifest your trauma, then you got to do a boss fight, which felt like a weird way to end note all of these.
Yes.
You fight Tiamat with Junior, right?
No, that's not for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then we cut back to Junior and friends.
Oh, right. This bullshit.
There's Mizrahi yelling Bible things. That's what I wrote on this note. On top of the skyscraper, and then he jumps down, and then there's a splat, and Momo is traumatized.
Yeah, I just wrote blonde man talking about the sea and hell and death, and all giving up their dead, and everyone being judged. And that's your dad.
And then they go to the acute neurosis treatment facility, and I think this is where everyone meets up.
Sure. We basically get it pretty well established that this Albedo guy might not be a mentally stable person. We see him just basically fall apart in multiple occasions, get completely fucking ham.
Yes, okay. Sure. Yes, there's a ghost Realian named Febronia.
Febronia.
You have to through your trauma. And so then you fight Tiamat, who is a bad boss fight.
Yeah.
Very bad boss
This
fight.
is after an extended environmental puzzle where you've got to okay, so there's the UNM mascot creature is in a forest, and they smash a flower pot, and there's a soda can in there full of juice. And you've got to take the can and then run to another part of the forest and then put the can down on a table, and then the mascot will come to it. And then if you go inside of the house that the mascot was in at the time, you can get another segment key, which is a fun segment, which is great. And then everyone winds up in the church, like you said, and you fight Tiamat, which I took down on my first go. I've had weirdly good luck with every boss fight in this game, but there's another one that I just kind of rolled. Without eggs.
Tiamat is not fun. Just not a good time. I just found... we really need to talk about how fucking long this dungeon is.
It's long. This takes hours, by the way. In case you've not been clear.
Okay, so here's the thing, is that this entire last portion of this game, this last third of this game, is just 3 really long dungeon crawls.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have and so you beat Tiamat, so you have to have Xion and Junior both do the finishing blow on Tiamat to kill it.
And it dies twice.
So you have to do it twice. And then I just have a note that says, Greensleeves, what the fuck is going on?
Right. It plays Greensleeves.
Yep. And so Febronia is explaining things to the characters that make no sense. And there are 2 other silver-haired Realians underneath a tree or something. And she's like, you gotta save them.
Cecily and Keith.
Yep.
release. So no, she's on this field that starts out as a spooky kind of like graveyard looking thing, and then it turns into light. And she asks Xion to release her sisters and to preserve or save the Realians, I think is what she said. And this is during Cosmos's Encephalon drive, right? Like, this isn't someone separate. So this is, for some reason, this is a part of Cosmos's memories. I guess it later kind of explains why. And then it turns out that Cecily and Kaith are an illusion, and instead, Fabronia then orders Xion to go to Old Militia.
Uh-huh.
And then that sets into motion Xion needing to confront her memories, correct?
Yep.
And so when we're with Xion, oh man,
Yes.
So with Xion, we have to find, we're just there. We're just fucking there, right? This is after the acute neurosis treatment facility.
Yes.
They need to retrieve information. This is after we fight Tiamat, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Fabronia comes after Tiamat.
Yep.
My notes are just
There's
Fabronia.
No. Fabronia is the one that tells us about Udo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the one that tells us about Udo, the waveform Udo, and how, there's a future. And
yes, there's a future. There's a flash forward question
flash
mark
forward.
Yeah.
of
A vision of the
Cosmos
future.
Out of nowhere.
in, like, full-on jet gear, doing a DBZ beam struggle with Udo.
Yes, I just write Miltia fires a red Kamehameha wave at Cosmos, who is in full Sentai gear. So she fires a blue one back from the space jetpack, and they has fight. And the explosion is very big.
And Cosmos tries to destroy Udo, and then it results in the destruction of the universe.
Yep, or something.
And then we get out of that flash forward. Fabronia and Xion are still just like Xion's gobsmacked, like, what do you just tell me about? And then Fabronia says that she needs to promise to eliminate something, to fight something. And then they leave the Encephalon.
Yes.
Well,
here's
not
the
before.
last thing.
Not before. So, yeah, Neff gives this, like, butterfly's wing speech about, like, influence of shit. And then she's like, hey, Xion, remember that time when a Gnosis touched you and nothing happened? And Xion's like, yeah, what's with that? And Neff's basically like, now is not the time. Someday I shall tell you, but thou must. Sorry. And then they get back. If you go to Miltia, all will be revealed.
Yeah, and then
the National Geographic logo appears.
Of Cosmos being crucified with robot parts.
Cosmos is tied to a crude stone cross with colorful guitar cables, is what I wrote.
Yeah. And then they get out of the brain matrix. We are an hour into this podcast.
We've only done one level.
Yep.
Okay, let's see.
It's also she's not
Alan,
crucified. They basically took audio cables, like Jeff's Rock Band cables, and wrapped her arms around a cross.
Yeah, like listeners to this podcast have been voluntarily tied up more than this, but there it is. You can look at it, and it's Xion touches her and glows. Xion says, "Ye shall be as gods," and then you're back to reality. There comes gravity. Alan do a hug to Xion because he is vulnerable, and vulnerability is funny when a man does it.
Yep.
Yes.
But wait, no. Cosmos does something to, like, disarm the Encephalon, right? Like, she makes the Encephalon less dangerous, so you can actually go back there and not have to fight shit.
Yes, you can go back there. The gang goes to the bridge, and Xion presents the USB drive to the commander woman lawyer person. Mary and Shelley, the Frankenstein ladies, are like, hey, Junior, why the long face? And Master Guinan is released from custody. Alan sits with Chaos and talks about Xion crying at Kevin's grave, as if that bothers him. He is conflicted about his roles as a subordinate and someone who is clearly into her.
Chaos is a good wingman.
Yes. Yeah, Chaos is pretty cool about it.
I would say that Chaos is actually super underwritten in this game.
Yeah.
Okay, and this isn't spelled out on any of the stuff I looked at to like finish my knowledge of this game, so I'll just ask you guys: is Chaos just literally an angel? Like a
I know I have been spoiled on Chaos's real identity.
Sure. I mean, he presents as an angel. He has all these angel abilities, and it occurred to me, I was like, this motherfucker is just going to be like a literal angel.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
cool.
For now, Jeff, we don't know what Chaos is.
Yeah, he's a weird little boy who can destroy the spirits within monsters with his touch.
Yeah, he's a good healer. He's got good ether attacks.
His voice actor is not terrible.
Yeah,
it's all.
I would actually say there's only a handful of characters that I would say are a little too over the top anime voice actors of this era. I didn't think that the voice acting in this game was as bad as maybe some people make it out to seem. This voice acting is of an era. I think we can agree to that. But
this is
across the board. As someone playing Final Fantasy X right now, this is better than Final Fantasy X.
There is an earnestness, even if the direction is all over the place. And
yeah,
I believe I said before in a previous episode that it has strong Toonami energy.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I think we can agree that Cosmos's voice actor does the whole robotic, stoic voice very, very well.
Yeah.
And I don't hate Xion.
No. Xion's great. Yeah, no, I don't hate the voice acting in this game. It is very 2003, but you know, it's like a fun flashback. It's a reminder of before, you know, voice acting in video games was consistently decent.
Yeah, we've got a few years removed before, you know, Nolan North.
Yeah, we're like voice acting for video games and anime started to get like consistently decent around the late 2000s.
Yeah,
I might say.
Well, remember that one Yakuza game that had fully voiced English voices?
Yakuza 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, the English release of Yakuza 1 where they had Mark Hamill as Majima.
Yeah. And what's his bucket from the Quentin Tarantino movies?
What's his name?
Michael Madsen?
Kiryu. Michael Madsen?
Yeah, Michael Madsen was
as Kiryu. We should consider playing that version of Yakuza 1. We shouldn't, but we should consider it.
Anyways, jumping back into this,
Yakuza's an RPG.
There's a little faffing about, and then basically the Kukai Foundation gets attacked by the Gnosis.
The Song of Nephilim happens.
Right. Okay. Well, no, we first get attacked, and then the Song of Nephilim.
Yep.
Yes.
This feels like the time for the game to say, oh yeah, we did some pretense, but now we need to talk about why Momo is an important part of your body.
Yep.
Right. So their initial plan for this, like, arrest ruse fails. So the second plan is just fucking blow shit up and take it while we're blowing shit up. So this is what they take this nice 30s environment and turn it into, for lack of a better word, another kind of long dungeon sequence.
Yep. And it's boring and not much happens, and you just have to rescue people.
Yep.
And they really milk a lot out of those two street areas. To the tune of, like, it took me like 2 hours.
Indeed. And it's, again, just two, like, they're neat little areas. Like, they feel like, you know, the part, like, the 2 of, like, the 5 environments in, like, a Persona game on the PlayStation 2, basically. Yes. But that's it. That's all they got. And they really, really gotta fucking milk them.
You have to rescue, like, 18 people.
Many people.
Yeah.
And it is tedious, and there are some environmental puzzles, and I don't want to talk about it.
I think it was about as entertaining, and it kind of reminded me of rescuing civilians in Dead Rising. Like holding their goddamn hands and needing to bring them back to some sort of far-off nook in a mall.
Yep.
But there's only one location where you got to drag their asses to save them from the fucking zombies.
All right. And then, so yeah, we're just going to skip this entire sequence because nothing happens. It's just a boring dungeon sequence.
Yeah.
And then I have a thing that says Albedo blows up all the space whales with his crazy eggs.
Yeah, like very, to display the scale of power, like these things that have presented problems for a lot of people along the way, he just sort of like destroys.
Which, okay, I get it. I understand we need to establish Albedo as super powerful eventual boss of this game. But if the bad guys are trying to coalesce power, like the bad guys are trying to become like the New World Order, and you've basically got this robot man who has a laser beam that can just kill literally every Gnosis within a huge vicinity, why don't you just kill all the Gnosis and then take credit for it and install yourselves as some sort of dictatorial power?
Because evil!
Because they want to break into heaven. Or something.
Yeah.
You can't break into heaven if the alien ghost monsters keep killing you.
Become as gods.
Anyways, Albedo is able to kidnap Momo.
Yeah, they like literally they're like, we all have to get out of here, and she's like, I want to stay back and help people, and they're like, we see no problem with this.
Zero problem with this.
Yeah.
And then Albedo kidnaps her, and then
let's say psychologically tortures her.
Introduced to the Song of Nephilim,
which is a giant space pyramid.
It's the most Evangelion thing. It's got a sleek, smooth edges, red top. It's an Evangelion. It's Ramiel of
yes.
Wait,
it's literally Ramiel from Evangelion.
So is this the song, or is that Proto Macaba?
Proto Macaba is the other giant space station.
Okay, I'm conflating the two.
Yes, there are the last two dungeons in this game are two giant space stations.
Yeah, what is
the monolith?
Proto Macaba is flat Earth.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's clearly a difference.
Right. So it's notable that both Junior and Gainem can hear the song, but also Shion can hear the song.
And it's like, wonder why that is.
This ominous droning music that has been playing in the background of the game. So
it's been playing for a while too. Yeah.
Yeah. And before everyone goes to rescue Momo, there's a scene, and this is my favorite. This might be my favorite scene in the entire game.
It's really good.
So it is Albedo in this throne room with Momo, and they're just corpses of all of these 100 series Realians who look like Momo out there. And then he does this amazing rant where like he rips one of the robots apart and says, "Can you really call this a corpse?" And then he does, I just wrote in notes, Kojima rant, where he's talking about how humans invented culture and politics and government because they are mortal and pathetic.
Free from the bonds of flesh and shackles of flesh and blood, a pure consciousness has no true form. He says at some point, which is really good. I think it's specifically as he pulls his head off.
Yes, he rips his head off.
His head off. Why? To show his hatred of humanity.
To fuck with Momo.
It's worth noting there is a slight censorship here. At some point, he pulls off his arm. In the Japanese version of this cutscene, he takes a knife and just saws it off. And apparently, this is the version where he just kind of ganks it off. I don't know why that change would have been made when you consider everything else going on here. But
so
I guess, was this a T or a M?
This is T.
Okay, so maybe that was like, whoa, boy, like
too hot for the SRB.
Yeah. So this is all very good psychological torture, bad, evil shit. All basically so he can clone the GitHub repository inside of the robot.
Yep.
Well, he regrows his arm.
Oh yeah, by the way. Yeah. he fucking whatever, not chameleons, axolotls or whatever.
Wolverine.
Wolverine. Yep. There you go. An animal I can name.
And he's really entertained when she says, "Please, Junior." When Momo says, "Please, Junior, please save me." And then he's like, finds that really amusing and funny. And then Momo just passes out.
Yeah, maniacal anime laugh.
And then when Momo passes out, he like starts downloading her brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Okay, and then we cut back to everyone else on the Durandal still being like, "Oh, we gotta save Momo, but the Gnosis are still attacking." And then the Vector Industries ship shows up, the Damerung, because German words, because last battle. I just wrote, "Fuck you, space whales," because it shoots this giant beam that destroys all the space whales.
It's got a really good gun.
Called the Rhine Maiden.
Yeah. Do we know what the Y data even is?
It is the date. Yes. God damn it. It's like all of Joachim Mizrahi's research and like a bunch of passwords, which theoretically will give them access to like the real Zohar, which is what they need to get into heaven. Crudely.
I know we're skipping ahead. Why are Xion and Cosmos in the Y data?
Why are they in the Y data?
Why are they? You'll have to find out in Xenosaga episode 2.
Indeed.
Jun Gut and Boss. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, which we're playing next. So
no, we aren't.
Ha 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 ha. So they're like, fuck, we need to do something about this horrible scheme. Let's manifest a song into space. Which they do. Because of magic, I guess.
Jeff, I feel like I can't give this game a hard time for having a song. Like, literally every single Final Fantasy game, like, a song being a part of the story has been a JRPG tradition for quite some time.
Sure. I don't know how else to say this. I don't mind pretty much any of this most of the time. Like, I think as we're sort of getting to the denouement of this thing, it actually kind of ends less crazy than I was hoping it would get.
Like I said, this is, for me, after Albedo does the weird head ripping off shit, like, this is oddly where I think the game starts to become more and more coherent and at least easier to follow. I feel like there's maybe one more part, and I know what Braden's gonna say. There's one more part, but other than that one part, like, this is just ho-hum anime shit.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that one part coming up, man.
Yep. All right, so they're all like, we got to go rescue. We got to rescue Momo. We got to get to the song.
Got to exercise some Y control on this Y data.
Yep, and they get on. You get taken there on the
phase transfer cannon.
Yes, phase transfer cannon. They shoot. Do they shoot Cosmos into space?
Space cannon.
Space cannon.
So it's Cosmos. The party in Cosmos used the phase transfer cannon to bring the song into real space.
Yes.
And so Xion's party, they enter the song.
Yep.
Okay, so they get in the song.
It's a space station. Yeah.
And then the song gets shot.
Yep.
And the mission is to defeat Albedo.
Yep. And then
but then Albedo escapes.
And then they're like, Albedo is Junior's dark half. That's what Junior says. And then Ziggy's like, you have to keep control of your emotions. I'm a stoic, emotionless cyborg.
Sure.
And Junior's like, screw you, old man. Basically.
And it's so Albedo like runs his like git clone command on Momo, but like the hash is wrong on it. There's some sort of like network interruption, so the data that he winds up getting is actually kind of gnarled up a little bit. So it's like not all useful.
Yeah.
And this is the point where a character referred to as the Blue Testament appears.
Yep,
and it basically tells the party they need to get to Old Miltia, like, no matter what. Albedo uses, like, the partial clone of Mizrahi's Git repository to summon Proto Macaba, which is a space station that he built. And his goal in doing so is, well, I'm just going to fucking destroy the second version of this planet and also your space station.
Yep.
Like, we get into some pretty, like, concrete ideas at this point, as opposed to, I'm going to kill God or whatever.
Yep.
It's just like, I'm going to get a space station to blow up your space station.
Yeah, there's a boss fight with Albedo's eggs that is bad.
Very bad.
And then there's a Super Saiyan beam struggle, and then blue guy shows up, and then you fight the blue guy, and then he's like, yeah, go to Miltia, and then Proto Macaba shows up. But not before I wrote, the remaining Gnosis get sucked into the space pyramid, then Albedo summons a giant space thing. And then the last dungeon of the game, Proto Macaba, which was Joachim Mizrahi's laboratory that was banished to deep space.
This level is awful.
And it's bad.
This level is so bad.
So what distinguishes it from the other extraordinarily long...
It's so goddamn big.
Yeah.
It's very long, and if we want to break it out even more, I think my ultimate problem with this game is that it is not as long as it would be significantly shorter if you could skip animations.
Right.
Yes.
And so this is the part of the game, and Braden, you can back me up because you also got to this part. This is the part of the game where you almost need to do the longer animation attacks to get through even the most benign random encounters.
This part is hard.
This part is legitimately hard. Like, you need to kind of piece... Like, of course I get the idea.
Yeah.
Like, this is the part of the game where we have to piece it all
also,
together.
I didn't do any of the side quests, so I get it. But, like,
sure,
hey, I
whatever.
upgraded my eggs all the way. That worked out pretty well. But, like, regular encounters can fuck you up in this part.
It's not only that, but, like, the only attacks that are effective are those long summons with Momo.
There are enemies who are flying but have a ton of ether resistance, and most of your ranged attacks are ether. So if you don't have an eggs that has the Gatling guns for physical damage, and you're gonna have a bad time.
It's the little things, like the process of going through the menu to select that you want to use your egg, and then the animation to summon the egg or bring it into combat, and then just fiddling through the menu, the sub menu, to then select your egg's attacks. It's like, what, 15 seconds? But you have to do it for every single battle for every single character.
So I have a question for you both. So you said you didn't engage with the side stuff, so neither of you wound up getting the fucking end game spell. You get the Erdkaiser. Erdkaiser. Because I'm like most of the way to getting that thing. Okay. And it's kind of a win button, for lack of a better word. It costs 30 ether points to use, but it just does 9,999 damage.
Because there are a lot of enemies who are completely immune to ether on this level.
Hold it. We forgot one important thing. What? While Proto Macaba is being summoned, the guy with the blue crow mask takes his mask off, and it is revealed to be Lieutenant Virgil from the beginning of the game. The guy hated the guy who hates all of the
Virgil comes back from the dead.
He's an interdimensional entity now, and...
Yes.
Yeah, the weirdly developed, weirdly well-done model that they kill in the first 2 hours of the game.
Yeah, they killed him, and then now he's back. We also forget to mention Wilhelm.
Yeah.
The weird thing guy with the floofy hair.
The Vector
Wilhelm?
CEO.
Yes.
He just kind of gets a bunch of cut-ins throughout this game. He's the leader of Vector Corp.
Yep.
And he's like not a huge fan of U-TIC, but he works with U-TIC.
He says ominous things.
Yes, he is the "so it is time" font.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Metalocalypse like soon.
Okay, I want to read the last 2 lines of this back. And I think the last line in particular is about to hurt all of us, so I just want you both to, like, steel yourselves a little bit. Okay, so...
I get a little comfortable, let me...
Yeah, so like I said, this Erdekaiser spell is for finding all the robot parts and the red doors with the keys, and it's, like, a little bit of work, but it's not actually that bad as things go. Now you can summon this robot to deal 10,000 damage to any enemy, which seems pretty specific. Oh, and if you don't like the long animation sequence, simply press start to skip it. That makes me wonder if start works to skip animations for everything in fighting, or just for this. Because if it's the case that I could have saved literally hours of my life...
Literal hours.
Just hitting the start button during battles to skip very long animations.
Yep.
So, I just wanted you both to know that, so you can hurt like I do now.
Can someone look this up, because it might actually kill me?
I will test this later.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not...
So Virgil comes back. His egg is a space robot spider.
Yep. There's a space robot spider. Albedo's gonna, shoot the giant space laser at Second Miltia.
So Virgil is pro Albedo.
They both work for U-TIC? ?
But they don't like each other.
No.
Yes. Well, it seems like Albedo has kind of gone off the... he's not on the plan anymore. He's kind of cutting his own territory out.
He's just doing this to fuck with people, because
he's crazy.
He's a crazy mofo, and he is having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just being like, ha, 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 I will destroy you all.
He's a good guy. He likes to have fun.
Albedo, you bastard!
So yeah, Proto Macaba. It's a long level. It has a bunch of even random battles that require you to use
a bunch of gnosis,
stuff.
and it sucks.
There are enemies that are immune to ether. It has a boss, the final boss, Sophie Pythos.
Yep. So you fight Albedo in the reactor core, and he's not super hard. Like, as long as you keep your buffs up and everything.
Yeah.
And then
but it's definitely one of those situations where you know that when you beat Albedo, oh yeah, there's some bullshit that you're gonna summon that I have to fight. There's
second form, and it's Sophie Pythos, and it's a giant gnosis that is merged with the reactor core.
Yeah, no, he does it on purpose. He purposely fuses a massive gnosis with the main reactor, spawning this thing called Sophie Pythos.
A giant space whale, to be clear.
A giant space whale.
And then
however, it was the engine. Yeah. It was the goddamn engine of this spaceship. So after you beat this monster, basically it's crashing, careening towards the atmosphere of the planet that it's next to. Like, the animation of the Proto Macaba engine turning into this horrible monster, it was something.
Yeah.
Jeff, I don't know if you saw the actual engine turning into a space whale, but I would rank it up there with Kingdom Hearts 1. Dude turns into a boat. You're just looking at this nondescript engine, and then suddenly it turns into this fucking monster.
Yeah. That comparison didn't cross my mind, but as you say it, oh boy, when that man turns into a boat, fucking Kingdom Hearts, my dude.
Yep. Thank you, Kingdom Hearts.
That man.
That boss sucks. That fucking boss is awful.
That boss, I mean, I did it on my first try, thankfully, so I didn't have to...
It's one of those bosses that's not necessarily hard, it's just tedious. Goddamn long.
It's just long because as long as you play defensive and keep your health up, you will be fine.
To borrow a term that Gino likes to use, it is a plate simulation boss, where as long as you spin all of the plates, you're not going to die, but you have to come come to terms with, this is going to take at least 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. All right. And it is revealed that, and Albedo says without clarification that actually Junior, whose real name is revealed to be Rubido, by the way.
Yes.
Because red. Because he has red hair, because he's a boy man with red hair and the sign of the beast on his hand. And then I just have a thing that says this is just the end of Sonic Adventure 2.
Right. You've sold us on all of this, that this is actually Sonic Adventure 2.
This is literally the end of Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, so Sonic Adventure 2 is the one that ends with the turtle
Space
that's
station.
got the weird engine on top of it, or the fucking proton pack on top of it.
You have to fight the lizard. Yeah.
The lizard that is, remember, it was Dr. Eggman's father trying to research into
the ultimate life form.
Well, not only the ultimate life form, but is there a way to keep something alive forever? So he put a proton pack to the back of a turtle.
Yep.
And he left it on a space station.
And then it tries to crash the space station into Earth. And anyway, so it's like, oh no, the space station's gonna blow up, and we're all gonna die, and there's not enough time to get back to the Elsa. And Cosmos is like, don't worry, guys, I got this. You go. I'll, make sure that the space station does not blow everything up.
And I said this during your streams, Braden, but this scene is well done.
Yes.
It is actually shot immaculately.
It is dramatic.
The music fits the tone of the scene. I would say the only unfortunate thing is that it is some of the most typical anime, like sacrifice my life to protect my team thing. And it ends with some very tropey, like, literally it ends with her on the tip of the fucking ship, like, basically looking into the sunrise.
Yeah,
like, some of the most generic-ass anime and just
like, it's
movie
good.
visuals
it's
ever.
Well executed.
Yeah.
But it's well executed, and then this is when I said, hey, you're making a comparison to Sonic Adventures 2, but this entire end sequence, this is the ending of Mass Effect 2. So in my headcanon, I imagined, like, we're getting out of this horrible space station that had mutant monsters in it. I want to think that when BioWare was planning the ending of Mass Effect 2, they played fucking Xenosaga Episode 1.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Honestly,
like
the
whole scene where, like, Cosmos is, like, running and she's got to grab her hand.
Running on the side of the space station that is blowing
it's
up.
The Shepard scene where he's jumping and then he, Jack grabs his hand. The person you least expect it.
And Shion will, Shion sees Cosmos because of something psychic resonance, because
he's got a bond with her. And then also, like, Cosmos almost dies like 3 times.
Yep, and
so
then they're like, oh no, the ship is going to, and then the Elsa can't pull up, and so Cosmos is like, don't worry guys, I'll shield the ship with myself.
Yeah.
And then Chaos does something, and then somehow
we get a lot of weird, like, interjections as this ending is happening. Like, we see Wilhelm with the device in his hands. We see U-TIC trying to network with Albedo, like, mission failed, but look, we got a plan B.
Because Albedo got the data.
Yeah, you've got, like, a bunch of weird interjections of, like, you get a sense that they knew that this would not be the last game that they made. And you know what?
Like
good on them.
On a 6-game series that was then turned into a 3-game series. I'm sure this won't come up later.
No, of course not. It's just this is the weird compass that Wilhelm has too.
Yep.
Yeah, the compass thing. Wilhelm has the shit. What is it? Fuck.
The compass of order and chaos.
Yes.
Sure.
And it is apparently the chaos part of it that is moving now. That is inciting all of this, like, it is time.
Yep.
Shit.
It is time.
That's it.
Yep. And so what have we learned? What have we derived from this? How do you feel about what we have done?
They really went for it.
Yep.
They went awfully hard.
And
if I was a weeb in 2003, and like, you know, I think I would have loved this game if you're like the person watching, you know, like Yu Yu Hakusho or, once again, Big Toonami Energy. I think this game would have been super cool because it goes hard in a way that even by the lavish standards of PS2 era JRPGs, it goes hard.
So, like, contemporaries. Like,
yes.
What are this game's contemporaries in terms of, like, JRPGs? It's basically Final Fantasy X, some Tales games that never got localized.
Yep.
Symphonia came out not wildly long after this, I guess.
Yep.
So that's more like a Xenosaga 2 comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as successful in what it set out to do as Final Fantasy X, but I think that's because it tried to do entirely too many things.
Yes. And this is also them trying to be like, all right, you know, we couldn't get the second disc of Xenogears is literally just a bunch of text, so we're gonna do it right this time. And thus begins, you know, the endless saga of Monolith Soft making the same game for 20 years.
Yeah, the conclusion is don't include the second disc, just make it later.
Yeah. Yep. Coincidentally, my copy of Xenoblade Chronicles showed up today.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
Because it was being sold for $30, and I said, I'll play this game eventually.
I can't help. I always ask myself, man, what other video games came out during this time? And like, what are the games that, like, this game came out the same time as, like, and I know I'm a CRPG guy comparing CRPGs to JRPGs, but this game came out the same year as Morrowind and Neverwinter Nights 1.
And KOTOR.
Yeah, and KOTOR.
I mean, in 2003 in the US. So,
and it came out in Japan the same year as Metal
Japan
Gear Solid 2 Substance. Yeah. And I think that this game is, oddly enough, I wouldn't say it gets like peak pull up its own ass like Kojima. No. But it gets pretty close.
No, they have ideas, and they are so excited about those ideas that they do not convey them coherently. And I once again entreat our listeners to please write in and tell us if you understand even a fraction of what the fuck we were talking about during this 3-part podcast.
Is Xenosaga the Finnegan Wakes of video games?
No. Do not make that comparison.
Is it closer to something like
Stanley Kubrick's The Shining?
No.
11 million different comparisons, and all of them are wrong?
It is anime. It would make more sense as an anime, and sure enough, they made an anime.
Okay, then I need to look. What are the 2002, 2003 animes? I need to know. Rurouni Kenshin. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Rurouni Kenshin, yeah.
The Deep Listen's Whipping Boy, I think it's almost more of a cousin to, like, Nier Automata than anything, in some ways. Like, it attempts all these, like, concepts, very high concept ideas that it's throwing around, and it's like your familiarity with these concepts are, you looked at the first 3 paragraphs of a wiki article on, like, Gnosticism, basically, and then decided to write an entire JRPG based on, like, that. Like, Nier Automata just does that, but with, like, government forms and, you know, the concept of a soul in a robot. In fact, it treads some of the same territory, I guess. So, I don't know. I feel like it's a weird... It's weirdly of its time, because I do think it's, like, akin... You know, as a JRPG, mechanically, You can look at it, and you can look at Final Fantasy X and be like, this is what was being done at this time. And you can also look at Metal Gear Solid 2 in terms of the cinematic approach to, like, cutscenes, and also the, like, wow, crazy fucking concepts that we're going to start throwing out.
DVDs had a lot of storage space, huh?
Yeah, I think that's the main keystone, is just like, this game is on a DVD, and we have a lot of space we can fill, so let's go nuts.
And we didn't make what we wanted to with Xenogears, so let's go nuts, because we've started this new company, and Namco's given us seemingly carte blanche, which would, alas, dear viewers, would not last.
And, like, it's worth noting, this was a well-received enough game at the time. Like, this, there are greatest hits versions of this in North America, so it sold north of 1 million copies.
Yeah, this game sold well. They made 3 of them.
It got a reissue in Japan, and then it launched. There was a separate, not sort of like a omake kind of disc, but there was something just called Xenosaga Freaks, which was kind of a weird not fan-made, but like side story game.
I decided I had to know. I ended up playing Xenosaga 1+2 on the DS. Because I had to know, how different was it? And boy, that's its own different beast.
That might be something we need to talk about when Xenosaga 2 happens, which will not be for a while, dear listeners. Because I think my biggest takeaway is that this game is a lot, even by the standards of a similar game of a similar length. Like, if we had played a Final Fantasy game, or, even like, I don't know, just to throw out names, Grandia 2, I think we would have had far less to talk about and would not have needed to spend as much time explaining things while people metaphorically stare at us and nod their head and go, yeah, no, that's great. The robots. So the robot is like Jesus or something?
Yeah.
I'm actually, not to disrupt this, but I kind of want to read through this. I almost feel bad invoking the word, but the censorship portion of this wiki article, because so there's some shit here. So all of this is built around the albedo interrogating, menacing Momo sequence of the game. So, again, I'm just going to read verbatim. The Japanese version has him snapping a Kirschwasser, which is they're apparently Type 99 medallions he had. Has him snapping off a Kirschwasser's arm. In the censored English version, he merely lets go of it. Despite the censorship, the sound of the arm breaking and the albedo whipping out his knife remain, which can lead to confusion. The Japanese version had him whip out a knife and cut his arm and head off with blood. In the censored version, he physically tears off his arm and head. In another scene, albedo puts his hand inside Momo's body, using the language of this website, symbolically mental raping her.
Oh boy.
This was censored to albedo lifting his hand over her.
Okay.
So,
sure, whatever.
So there were some, frankly, maybe appropriate editorial changes here. Also, Jesus Christ, what were you people doing? It's a picture of a grown man sticking his hand inside of a child, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
So, didn't need that. It's probably a better game without it. So, things to know. Talk about the whole history of it. I totally interrupted
everybody,
you,
where do we rank this game with the rest of the games that we played?
Yeah,
where do you rank favorably or unfavorably to Ultima 4? I think it ranks above Ultima 4. Jeff, what do you think?
Sure.
Braden, would you rank this above or below Ultima 4?
I would rank it above Ultima 4.
Okay, what was the next game we played? Everything's a fucking blur now.
Fire Emblem. Shadow Dragon
this ranks
and
above
the something.
Fire Emblem.
I think
Jeff,
this ranks
how do you
Fire
feel?
Emblem 1. Yeah.
Yeah, better than Fire Emblem 1.
Given how long it took us to deal with this, especially with the community endurance run, we're not going to play another long, full game for at least a little bit.
No.
But what are we going to do, gentlemens?
I don't know, Chris. This was your idea.
I thought, why don't we do a special? And I said, what's this type of special that we can make sure that Gino, M, and Pete don't play any of the games that are a part of this special?
Yeah.
And I said, why don't we do a Kosoge episode? Braden, what does the word Kosoge mean?
This guy's playing frickin' Vagrant Story, which was stealing our territory.
No, but
I'm enjoying Vagrant Story. How dare she?
According to Famitsu, the sole arbiter of truth in video games, is a perfect game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all 10s.
Kosoge means shit game, basically, in Japanese, and it is kind of a term of endearment a little bit. Like, it is often associated with games like Spelunker or
Atlantis Donazo, Wing of Medola, a lot of Sunsoft. Cheetah Men definitely fits. A lot of early Game Boy licensed shit. Just, yeah.
So in that spirit, I think we're each gonna pick one game, and then we're all gonna like play a little bit of it and talk about them.
Sure.
So hopefully we
so
don't
Braden,
have an
go
episode.
first, because you were the first person who's like, hell yeah, I got a pick. What is your pick?
Yeah, because listen, weirdly enough, I'm full up on the dubious RPGs.
What?
Garbage is my brand. Thanks. So I am picking Draken, which is an early Eurojank CRPG, like Amiga era. It's on GOG for $5.
I forget. Do you buy the GOG version of Draken or the Steam version of Draken?
I have the GOG version. I think they're both the same because I imagine it's just a DOSBox window.
Then I'll buy the GOG version.
This game is powered by DOS, so this is not the Amiga version of the game. This is the DOS version of it.
You're making us play an Infogrames game.
Yes, an early Infogrames game. And
before they bought Atari.
So the thing I know about Draken is that it has a infamous reputation, both among like European audiences and RPG fans of that era.
This
as
looks like
a cruel piece of shit. But you know, it lives in Eurojank legend, so I'm sure we'll have fun with it. What did you pick, Chris?
Well, originally my pick, I went too hard. I went too hard. I always like to test out my picks before I pick them. So my original pick was Deadly Towers, but then unfortunately I realized that Deadly Towers just isn't Kusoge enough, which means terms of endearment, and it's just bad. It's just fucking bad. Like crouch in a corner for a sword to pop out. Like great, awesome. So I wanted to play something that's maybe more immediately weird and stupid. So I decided to peruse some games that I saw on Hardcore Gaming 101 with the Kusoge label. And then I saw a game that I actually remember playing as a young lad. And that game is Revengers of Vengeance.
Oh, dear. What is that?
Imagine if you would, Ys.
Okay.
But the combat is a fighting game, but you still need to level up your characters as if it's a role-playing game. But the combat is a fighting game, but it's made for the Genesis. So all of the inputs are like 8 directional controls, but it has like standard arcade fighting control prompts, like half circles and shit.
Yeah.
Who made this?
Revengers of Vengeance. It was developed by Micronet.
Oh, Jesus. Purveyors of fucking quality. There's an HG 101 line for you.
Yeah.
Whoa,
you know,
boy.
Such wonderful games as like Black Hole Assault and Heavy Nova and Warrior of Rome and Daedalus.
Okay.
Also known as Robotica, the Cybernetic Revolution.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what did you
Jeff,
pick, Jeff?
What is your pick?
I was going to punt, honestly, because this is probably enough for a couple weeks worth of shit, and the last thing we chose that you let me do, we spent months on, literally. But I'm not. Y'all gave me a crease, and I'm going to go with it. What I want to go with is It's a game that's been remade, and the remake is almost infinitely better than the original version. I'm talking about Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys.
Ys 3?
Ys 3.
Is this...
Not the Oath in Felghana. The remade
Wanderers
version.
from Ys.
Ys 3, Wanderers of Ys.
Is this the TurboGrafx version? Is this the...
Pretty much all the versions are similar, except the Famicom version is quite
is this
bad.
The one that's a weird side-scroller?
Yes.
You know what? Fun story, Jeff. This was actually the first Ys game I ever played, and so I thought, this is like they made a Zelda 2. And then I played it, and I actually kind of enjoyed it, but I had never played a previous Ys game. So Ys 3 was my first impression of the Ys franchise.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd like to play a real Ys game for this podcast at some point.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ys not 8 and 9, and Oath in Felghana.
Oath in Felghana is a fucking unbelievable good game. And Ys 1 holds up pretty well.
If we played a Ys game, could we play Ark of Nipishtim?
Isn't that 6?
Yep, yes it is. At some point, yes, but not before we play 3.
All right.
It's got really great music.
I don't hate this game because this was my first Ys game, and I didn't know any better.
Yeah, the Oath in Felghana, if you're going to play a version of Ys 3, play Ys 3, the Oath in Felghana. But
we're not playing Oath of Felghana, we're playing the old school TurboGrafx version.
Yeah, pick your console, we can pick 3 different ones. That's what we'll do.
Okay.
The PSP version of this game is actually a faithful port of the original Ys.
Aren't there 3 Ys 3s? Am I crazy?
Ys 4 is the one where it gets really crazy.
Okay.
Ys 3 came out on, like, everything that was viable at the time, so there's a PC Engine, a Super Famicom, a Mega Drive, and a Famicom, plus Japanese home PCs. I want to look at the platform list for that one, because actually, I bet it's quite long. Ys 3, Wanderers of Ys, came out on the 8801, the 9801, the MSX2, the 68000, Turbo CD, Super NES, Famicom, Sega Genesis, and PS2.
I'm trying to think. The only thing that I really remember out of any of these games, other than Ys, is I remember always feeling like with Draken, when I would die, I didn't understand why I died. If that makes sense.
I think the thing I know about Draken is, like, at one point the moon will, like, try to kill you.
Yeah, it's basically the Mario Sunshine, or the sun in Mario 3. Anyways, well, gentlemen, this was a pleasure. Thank you inflicting different levels of torture on me, but, fuck.
Yeah, it's a long one. We will not be spending that much time on a thing for a while.
How are we judging each other? It's who had the most fun, who had the most curious thing? I think we're ranking all 3 of these on the list, right?
Obviously, yes.
Jeff, I want you to say the words. Currently, Xenosaga is the best game that we've played for Off the Deep End. Say the words.
Currently, Xenosaga, Episode 1, Der Wille zur Macht, is the best game we've played for Off the Deep End, a Deep Listen spin-off podcast. Spoilers, it will likely remain so for a little while. Thank you, Braden, and thank you, Chris, for going along with this. And hey, thanks everyone for tuning in to this belated installment of Off the Deep End. Thank you for your patience. Like I said, inquiries, you can send them to inquiries@deep.lol.
Please tell me if you understand Xenosaga.
Yeah.
Inquiries@deep.lol.
Yes, Joe, if you're out there, give us a preview of episode 2 at some point. We'll just read it verbatim because it's going to be a while.
Yes. Tell us your favorite thing about Draken. Inquiries@deep.lol.
Do you know Revengers of Vengeance?
Also, if you'd like to kick in some money, like I said, Deep Listen's mothership needs money to stay afloat. We live off money. We actually don't. But, if you're feeling froggy, if your wallet just really, first of all,
Jeff.
If you're keeping your wallet in your back pocket, don't do that. It's bad for your back. But if you're doing that, and it's throwing off your spinal alignment, maybe you just need to just take some of that money out of there. Yeah, just give it to us. Just send it over. send it over to patreon.com/deeplistens.
Wait, Jeff.
Yeah?
Do you think by the time we record a new episode, Suwama won't be the title holder of the All Japan Pro Wrestling Triple Crown Heavyweight?
Man, they pushed that show back from the 16th for COVID reasons, so we'll see. I don't know when they rescheduled it.
I think we got another LOL Suwama event coming up.
I'll take it. Any dollar.
When Zeus held that belt for like literally one day.
We're the second All Japan English podcast in the whole world. There's only two.
Yeah.
Any dollar amount kicked in, patreon.com/deeplistens, greatly appreciated, and it will get you access to our Discord.
You know your company's in a bad time with Kento Mihara holds the belt for like 500 fucking days.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He fucking ruled. It was a good championship reign. Special shout out to the artist known as SUPERSEX 420 for providing us with the music Halfway that you heard at the beginning of this podcast and that you are hearing right now. You can buy more great songs from SUPERSEX 420 at bandcamp.com. See you next time. And remember, Udu is a wave, and it's also a force, and it comes from the internet, and it destroys planets, and I'm pretty sure it's red. Bye.
Blood for the blood god.
Blood for the blood god. Blood for the blood god.